I've seen the whole entire spectrum. And actually, one of the things people talk about these days is making social change in that work. And it really depends on what you mean by that. And if we just confine ourselves to community-based theater, I've seen people do a collaborative theater project in a small town that is very sharply racially divided, and bring those people together for the first time in their lives to tell the stories about the town that go way back to their great-grandparents. And I've seen these people fall into each other's arms at the end of the process, something they never would have found a way to do before, even through church. But the other end of the spectrum is projects that actually set out to create political change. And the best example I can think of is a performance artist named John Malpede, who started the Los Angeles Poverty Department in Los Angeles in the mid-'80s. And he went to Skid Row and started working with homeless people. And together they created a theater company, and it's still in existence, with one or two of the people made it all the way through from 1986. But I've watched that experience change people's lives to the point where they get off the street, they scrape some money together, and they rent an apartment and get a job. But more importantly, they learn how to examine their social situation and how to step outside it and figure out what the dynamics of it are and what kinds of steps they can make in the world to change that for themselves and other people. And that group of people has literally changed history. I mean, they changed the bottom level amount of welfare that a single person can get in California, to the point where now when somebody gets, usually they're single men, when they get welfare, they actually have enough in their check to sleep indoors every night instead of 2 nights in a single room occupancy hotel and 5 nights in a box on the street. And also they have identified Skid Row as a community with a history, as a neighborhood. They've created a museum, a Skid Row museum, and a whole Skid Row history with plays and books and performances about the history out of their own lives. But the most amazing thing they did was, back in I guess it was the 90s, the San Jose Mercury News came out. They broke a story about the CIA facilitating the sale of crack cocaine on the streets of California in the, poverty districts. And the profits went to the Contras in Nicaragua. And this went all the way to Congress, to a congressional hearing. So LAPD took the script of that congressional hearing and performed it all over the country. So you got people who were sleeping in boxes at night, and then on the stage dressed in suits saying the words of senators and Congress people. And then afterwards, they would always have a Q&A and a community discussion with an expert on the war on drugs. So they were talking about issues that impacted their lives. So those are the ways that I think they can make social change.
I've always felt too that at its very base, community arts are the way, the arts in general, the way people tell their stories, their own histories. And if you don't have art in the community, then our stories are all coming out of Los Angeles and New York, and eventually you've got a whole country who's just from New York and Los Angeles. And what that does is like you lose a sense of self-worth. When you're, if you're living in North Carolina, nobody's telling your stories if you don't have people doing that. So, I've always liked to say that art in the community isn't prescriptive. You don't see a problem and take art in there. It's like, it's a symptom. If there's no art in the community, it's a symptom of something that's wrong, because it's like having a book without the last chapter or something. It's like you don't put the last chapter in there to fix the book. You put the last chapter in there to complete the book. And that's why we need art in the community.